So glad you're here, either online or here in the auditorium. Let's get CR started. Would you please stand? Let praise be a weapon that silences the enemy. Let praise be a weapon that conquers all anxiety. Let it rise. Let praise arise. We sing your name in the dark and it changes everything. We sing with all we are and we claim your victory. Let it rise. Let praise arise. We'll see you break down every wall. We'll watch the giants fall. Oh, fear cannot survive when we praise you. The God of breakthroughs on our side. Forever lift him high. With all creation cry, God, we praise you. Oh, we praise you. Let faith be the song that overcomes the raging sea. Let faith be the song that calms the storm inside of me. Let it rise. Let praise arise. We'll see you break down every wall. We'll watch the giants fall. Oh, fear cannot survive when we praise you. The God of breakthroughs on our side. Forever lift him high. With all creation cry, God, we praise you. Oh, we praise you. Oh, we praise you. Oh, we praise you. This is what living looks like. This is what freedom feels like. This is what heaven sounds like. We praise you, we praise you. This is what living looks like. This is what freedom feels like. This is what heaven sounds like. We praise you, we praise you. We'll see you break down every wall. We'll watch the giants fall. Oh, fear cannot survive when we praise you. The God of breakthroughs on our side. Forever lift him high. With all creation cry, God, we praise you. Oh, we praise you. If I didn't know what it hurt like to be broken, then I wouldn't know what it feels like to be whole. If I didn't know what it cuts like to be rejected, then I wouldn't know the joy of coming home. Maybe it's okay if I'm not okay, 'cause the one who holds the world is holding on to me. Maybe it's alright if I'm not alright, 'cause the one who holds the stars is holding my whole life. If I didn't know what it looked like to be dirty, then I wouldn't know what it feels like to be clean. None of my shame had drove me hard in the shadows, then I wouldn't know the beauty of being free. Maybe it's okay if I'm not okay, 'cause the one who holds the world is holding on to me. Maybe it's alright if I'm not alright, 'cause the one who holds the stars is holding on. Father, let your kingdom come, let your will be done here in my heart as in heaven. Oh Father, let your kingdom come, let your will be done here in my heart as in heaven. Oh, maybe it's okay if I'm not okay, 'cause the one who holds my world is holding on to me. Maybe it's alright if I'm not alright, 'cause the one who holds the star is holding my whole life. Now I'm alive in you, I'm bursting at the seams. Now I'm alive and I see you in everything. Maybe it's okay if I'm not okay. I'm calling on the God of Jacob, whose love endures through generations. I know that you will keep your covenant. I'm calling on the God of Moses, the one who opened up the ocean. I need you now to do the same thing for me. Oh God, my God, I need you. Oh God, my God, I need you now. How I need you now. Oh rock of ages, calling on the Holy Spirit. Almighty river, come and fill me again. Come and fill me again. Come and fill me again. When all I see is a mountain, you see a mountain move. And as I walk through the shadow, your love surrounds me. There's nothing to fear now, for I am safe with you. Oh God, the battle belongs to you, and every fear I lay at your feet. I'll sing through the night. Oh God, the battle belongs to you. And if you are for me, who can be against me? For Jesus, there's nothing impossible with you. When all I see are the ashes, you see the beauty. When all I see is the cross, God, you see an empty tomb. So when I fight, I'll fight on my knees with my hands lifted high. Oh God, the battle belongs to you, and every fear I lay at your feet. I'll sing through the night. Oh God, the battle belongs to you. An almighty fortress, you go before us. Nothing can stand against the power of our God. You shine in the shadows, you win every battle. Nothing can stand against the power of our God. An almighty fortress, you go before us. Nothing can stand against the power of our God. You shine in the shadows, you win every battle. Nothing can stand against the power of our God. So when I fight, I'll fight on my knees with my hands lifted high. Oh God,
Good evening and welcome to Celebrate Recovery. Welcome to all of our online participants as well. My name is Tony and I'm a follower of Jesus Christ who struggles with codependency and lust. If this is your first time or your 100th time at CR and you're participating tonight with feelings of anger, fear, guilt, shame, anxiety, inadequacy, or depression, you are in the right place. You're in a safe space where others like you are healing from their own hurts, habits, and hang-ups, and from both fair pain and unfair pain. Whatever you're struggling with, you are welcome. I've invited Yana and Lily to read the 8 principles. Feel free to read along with them.
Hi, I'm Lily. I'm a grateful believer in Jesus Christ. I'm a survivor of sexual abuse and emotional abuse, and I struggle with sex addiction and drug addiction.
Hey, Lily.
And I'm Yana. I'm a grateful believer in Jesus Christ, and I struggle with codependency, insecurity, and depression.
Hey, Yana.
So please join us as we read the 8 principles based on the Beatitudes. Principle 1, realize I'm not God. I admit that I am powerless to control my tendency to do the wrong thing and that my life is unmanageable. Happy are those who know they are spiritually poor. Matthew 5:3.
Principle 2, earnestly believe that God exists, that I matter to him, and that he has the power to help me recover. Happy are those who mourn, for they shall be comforted. Matthew 5:4.
Principle 3, consciously choose to commit all my life and will to Christ's care and control. Happy are the meek. Matthew 5:5.
Principle 4, openly examine and confess my faults to myself, to God, and to someone I trust. Happy are the pure in heart. Matthew 5:8.
Principle 5, voluntarily submit to every change God wants to make in my life and humbly ask him to remove my character defects. Happy are those whose greatest desire is to do what God requires. Matthew 5:6.
Principle 6, evaluate all my relationships, offer forgiveness to those who have hurt me, and make amends for harm I've done to others, except when to do so would harm them or others. Happy are the merciful. Matthew 5:7. Happy are the peacemakers. Matthew 5:9.
Principle 7, reserve a daily time with God for self-examination, Bible reading, and prayer in order to know God and his will for my life and to gain the power to follow his will.
Principle 8, yield myself to God to be used to bring this good news to others, both by my example and by my words. Happy are those who are persecuted because they do what God requires. Matthew 5:10.
If you'd like to donate to Celebrate Recovery at Crescenta Valley Church, you may give during the offering at the close of the meeting. Newcomers, we encourage you to email us at info@CB Church with any questions you might have. You can also connect with us by texting CV Church to 77411. We also recommend 2 newcomer books that you can find at your favorite bookseller. First Steps to CR and Life's Healing Choices, both by CR founder, the late John Baker. We encourage everyone to participate in our Celebrate Recovery meetings, especially here in the Glendale, Burbank, Pasadena, and greater Los Angeles area. The list of local CR meetings in our area, all of the small group links, and this live stream link are posted on our website at cvchurch.com under the CR tab. Step studies are currently closed. If you've completed a step study at any point, sign up to train to facilitate a new step study or sponsor by emailing info@cvchurch.com. Online midweek CR devotional and share on Zoom. Monday 5:30 to 6:30 is the women's group Boundaries with Joan R. Tuesday 7 to 9 Women's Spiritual Warfare with Roger Lynn C. You can participate on one or both days, and you can email info@cvchurch.com for the Zoom codes, or go to cvchurch.com and click on the Celebrate Recovery tab. Tonight's teaching is on sponsors, step 4.
Lots of different arenas for you to serve. So if you are interested in serving in whether it's facilitating small group, leading a step study, sponsoring, volunteering on the audiovisual team, and then coming up soon, we're going to be launching CR for children. It's called Celebration Station. So we're going to be doing that for K through 6, and there will be opportunities to serve there. And then soon after that, we'll be launching our Solid Rock Cafe. So if you like doing food, cooking, that kind of stuff, so that will all be coming. I'll be talking a little bit more about that at the end. Well, good evening, everybody. My name is Scott. I am a grateful believer in Jesus Christ. I struggle with pornography, codependency, work addiction, and depression. It's good to be with you tonight. And if you're new with us online, welcome. Every week I get emails and people reaching out from all over the country and all over the world that are participating in our Celebrate Recovery. So thanks to all of you that operate in the hybrid Zoom stations in your small group. I know that it is a lifeline for people who are out there looking to grow in their recovery. So tonight, we have, over the past 2 months, we have looked at step 3. And we've journeyed roughly since Easter through the first 3 steps. And I'll get us caught up to where we are right now on step 4 in these next couple of months. And some of you may have heard the term sponsor. Some of you are sponsors. Some of you are thinking about getting a sponsor, or thinking about sponsoring. And tonight we're going to talk about the 5 things. What is a sponsor? How do they function? How do I get one? What does it mean to have a sponsor, an accountability partner? But before I do that, I want to catch us up. So for those of you who are brand new tonight and you're jumping in with us in step 4, what steps have we worked to get to this point where I'm receiving and asking for a sponsor? So let's read the principles and steps, and then we will, principle 4 and step 4, and then I'll catch us up. So principle 4, I openly examine and confess my faults to myself, to God, and to someone I trust. The parallel verse with that is Matthew 5:8, happy are the pure in heart. The reason why we do the principles and the steps is the principles come straight out of the Beatitudes, Jesus' Sermon on the Mount in Matthew. Some Christ-centered recovery groups use the 8 principles. Others, if you come from a secular recovery background like AA, NA, Al-Anon, you'll be used to using the 12 steps. So we use those as well. So step 4, we made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. And the verse that we pair with that is Lamentations 3:40. Let us examine our ways and test them, and let us return to the Lord. So when I come into recovery and I get started, I come in and I start working step 1. When I come in, I'm broken, I'm frustrated, angry, feeling all sorts of emotions, really struggling with my hurts, habits, and hangups. The first step that I work is that whatever brought me in, I admit that I'm powerless over it. Now, it could be an addiction, it could be a compulsive behavior, it could be a person, place, or thing, it just could be some just sense of pain that I don't really know what to do with. And the first thing I have to do is admit that I'm powerless over it. Because if I could have solved it without coming to recovery, I would have. Okay, for whatever reason, God has not yet given me the power to resolve this issue on my own. It's a mechanism functioning in my life to bring me closer to Him. And through that hurt or habit or hang up or struggle, He's going to not only bring me in closer contact with Him, restore my relationship with Him, He's going to connect me to a whole community of other people who He can work through in order to heal me and restore me. So He's going to take me on this journey. And the things that I come in with are really my symptoms. So the things that I talked about when I came up and introduced myself, those are my symptoms. And as we work through the steps, we learn to uncover our character defects. The character defects are the roots of our symptoms. A really important part of that is what we're going to talk about today, and that is having accountability in my life. Sponsors and accountability partners. They help me see the roots of my addictions. They help me see my character defects. So when we come into recovery, the first thing that we have to do before God is going to do anything other than just woo us into a recovery group, into a recovery program, is we have to admit that we're powerless over it, that we cannot fix it ourselves. If we could have, we would have. And that our lives, or at least that aspect of our lives, is unmanageable. So powerlessness and unmanageability, those are the key words when I first come in. So if you're new with us tonight, or if you're joining with us online for the first time, and you want help, you're at that point of desperation that you've come to a recovery group. Right? I know what that feels like. You're in the right place. I know how scary it is. It's okay. You're in the right place. You're here with a lot of other people that are just like you, struggling with the hurts, habits, and hang-ups that are similar to yours. And you're going to hear your story. You might hear a little bit of your story in my talk tonight. You'll definitely hear a little bit of your story as you go to the small groups and you share, or you hear people's shares. Sharing's not required. It's encouraged, but there's no requirement. You can sit and listen, and you'll hear your story. And as you hear your story, you'll start to connect with other people through their stories. If you were not with us last week, I encourage you to go back. Peter from New Story, Los Angeles. Incredibly powerful story of how God rescued him in his low point of his drug addiction. Even if you're not struggling with drugs or alcohol, I highly encourage, go back. You can go to our website, cvchurch.com, click on the Celebrate Recovery tab, go to our Facebook page, go to our YouTube channel, and you can watch any of the previous 3 years since we've been doing live streams. I highly encourage you to watch last week's testimony, because Peter gave just a really beautiful understanding of how God reached him when he was at his lowest point. And now his life is totally changed. I encourage you to go back and watch Peter's story. Now, why do we do that? Why do we alternate between teachings and testimonies? It's because we need to hear our story and other people's stories. That's how we get, that's one of the pathways that we come into recovery, because we hear from other people's experience, strength, and hope. So when I'm new and I come in and I'm hopeless, if I can just stay long enough to hear my story and someone else's story, chances are good that I'll stick around. When I came in, I really wanted nothing to do with it, nothing to do with recovery, but I heard my story that first night. I heard some other guy share his story, and I thought to myself, maybe it's not hopeless. I thought, maybe if God could do that for him, maybe he can do that for me. And that's enough for me to get started. So step one, I'm admitting that I'm powerless and that my life, or that aspect of my life, is unmanageable. Then in step two, I come to believe that a power greater than myself. Now, in Celebrate Recovery, it's a Christ-centered recovery program. That power is Jesus Christ. He's our Lord, he's our Savior, he's our healer. But my relationship with Jesus might be completely broken if you're here tonight for the first time. That's okay. He restores broken relationships. That's what he does. He restores people, reconciles people back to him. When I first came in, my relationship with him was not great. But it's grown. It's grown. Over the past 16 years that I've been walking this recovery journey, it's improved little by little to where now I feel like I have a much closer relationship with Jesus than I did at the beginning. So in step two, I acknowledge that Jesus exists with the modicum of hope that I might have. I acknowledge that he exists and that he has the power to help me recover. Even if I've not experienced that for myself, I can at least look at someone else and say, well, that person believes that Jesus has helped them. Maybe Jesus can do that for me. That's all I need to start. Then in step three, I exchange my powerlessness that I declared in step one with Jesus' power that I declared in step two. And I surrender my life and my will over to Christ's care and control. Now, maybe I've come in and I've done that before. Maybe when I was a teenager, or maybe last week, or at some point along the way, I've surrendered my life to Christ, but I haven't surrendered my will to Christ. I haven't surrendered my hurts, habits, and hang-ups to Christ. I prayed, I I read my Bible, I served, I did everything that I could possibly do. But I had not yet declared utter bankruptcy and total brokenness. I had been asking God to remove, but I was asking him to take away my addictions and compulsive behaviors, and I wanted him to just take them away without having to go on this journey. I mean, that was the reality. I wanted him to just wave that magic wand over me, and I would not struggle with any of these things. And fortunately, for most of us, he doesn't do that because he has a bigger plan for us. If he just did that, if he just took it away, and there were some things in my life that he just took away, and I'm extremely thankful for those things, that I don't really struggle with those things. Once I surrendered them to him, he just took them away. But there were other things that it required me to go on this journey with him. So you might have that experience where certain things along the way, he just says, you're done with that. It's done. And we can be thankful. But then there are going to be other things that he's going to say, stick close to me because this will be the battle of your life. But if you trust me, if you walk through it with me, I will never abandon you. I'll never forsake you. I'll give you every single thing that you need along that journey. And when you come out on the other side, you will be restored. You will be healed. There will be a process, but you will experience things. You will come to know me in a way that you can never imagine. And I will surprise you in so many beautiful ways if you'll go on this journey. So those are the steps 1 through 3 that we work before we come to step 4. And in step 4, we talked about 2 weeks ago, we talked about the inventory. The inventory is the primary deliverable, if you will. It's the primary document. It's the work that I do in my recovery. It's my part that God asked me to sit down and write down using a particular format that helps me and my sponsor analyze my whole life. All of the struggles, all of the hurts, all of the failures, all of the things that have happened that have led me to this point. And in so doing, when I get a sponsor, that person helps me as I work the remaining steps, helps me see the character defects. I was meeting with someone who I'm sponsoring right now and helping them through this process. And we're working on step 6 and 7. We've done the inventory, and he shared that with me in step 5. And then in step 6, we're going through and we're picking out from his inventory the character defects. And as we were talking about it, a metaphor for character defects came out. And I know we're not on step 6 and 7, but I'm just trying to give you a little glimpse of what's to come and why it's so important to have a sponsor and accountability partners. Because as we were talking about it, I've been doing these teachings for almost 16 years, and a metaphor for the character defects just kind of popped out as we were talking that I'd never used before. It's kind of like what the soldiers would face in Afghanistan or Iraq, right? Those landmines that are buried in the sand. Those are character defects. We don't know that they're there, and if we step on one, it's not good for us. And our sponsors, our accountability partners, they're like those bomb-sniffing dogs that can sniff and see and find those character defects and expose them before we step on them. They're hidden. They're not the things on the surface that I can see, but they're absolutely deadly in my life. They are what's behind all of the struggles that I have. And when I come into recovery, I don't know they're there. And I just keep stepping on them, and it's not good. So that might be helpful. I don't know if it helped us as we were trying to talk about, what's that character defect. And so for those of you who are sponsors, those of you who are thinking about sponsoring, we have a number of new sponsors that are training right now. Those of you who are new that don't yet have a sponsor and accountability partner, we're going to talk about 5 things. You've heard the word, right? You might have a vague idea of what it is, but maybe you're wondering, why do I need one? Because when we come in, we usually want to find a way to do this by ourselves. Most of us want to do recovery by ourselves. That's just how we are. So the first question I want to answer is, why do I need a sponsor or an accountability partner? Give you guys a break on the acrostic for tonight. It doesn't spell anything, so I know you're very disappointed. It's a bunch of W's. So why do I need a sponsor? Why do I need an accountability partner? And we'll get into the distinctions between the two of those. There's 3 reasons. The first one is having a sponsor and accountability partner is biblical. Ecclesiastes 4:9-12 says, 2 are better off than one, because together they can work more effectively. If one of them falls down, the other can help him up. But if someone is alone, there's no one to help him. 2 men can resist an attack that would defeat one man alone. And that also applies to women. And in Proverbs 27:17, as iron sharpens iron, one man sharpens another. There is something powerful that happens when we avail ourselves of accountability. I say this at times to my own sponsees. Men ask and seek accountability. Mature women ask and seek accountability. If I am immature, I run from accountability. So maybe there's aspects of your life where you're still running from accountability, right? When we get exposed, when we struggle, we want to hide. That's just our nature. And what Jesus does is he transforms us through this process, is he empowers us to do something completely unnatural, which is when I'm struggling to seek accountability. Without him, that is impossible. It's impossible to do. But with him, all things are possible. So having a sponsor, it's biblical. For those of you who are coming in with a church background, that might motivate you. For those of you who come from a secular recovery background, having a sponsor and accountability partner, it's a key part of your recovery program. In other words, your recovery is only as good as your accountability. It's only as good as your accountability. We have if you look around, go to your small group, every person who has strong recovery has 4 key elements in their recovery program. 4 key elements of success, and I'll run through those really quickly. The first one is honesty. You have to have honesty. Sponsor, accountability partner helps you with that honesty. We have to maintain a sense of reality, an honest sense of reality as we work these steps. And when we have a sponsor and have an accountability partner, that support team helps us have an honest view of ourselves. Because without that accountability, we lie to ourselves, we minimize, we rationalize, we play all sorts of mental gymnastics. So honesty is a key, is the first key. The second key is my meetings. With most of my sponsees, when they're struggling, the first thing I'll say is, go to a meeting. There's something that happens when I avail myself to other people that struggle. It's like I just feel like I'm home. When I come into a recovery meeting, now it wasn't that way at first, so if you're not there yet, it's okay. Just keep coming. After a while, you will wonder how you ever did without going to meetings. It just will become second nature. And when I'm struggling, I have to get around my people, my recovery people. I have to get around other people who I can be unafraid to share. When I'm in that small group with those guys, there is nothing that's off limits for me. And there's no feeling like that. There's no place else where I have that sense of peace that I can share, not the perception of me, but that group of men, they know me. They know me. And everybody needs at least one place where you can be you, where the walls can come down and you can be you. So my meetings is where that happens. Knowing that a sponsor or an accountability partner will be at the meeting to greet you, and that they know you, and they know all of the most difficult parts of you, and they love you because of those things. They love you because you, like them, are on this journey and are committed to allowing Jesus to heal those things. That's a powerful bond. It's a very powerful bond. Going to meetings, building relationships in the recovery community, it creates an incentive to go. It creates a desire that is, quite frankly, stronger than my desire not to go. Because every Friday, I will not want to go. Right? That couch and that remote just seems more attractive than coming to the meeting. But there's something that I want to see all of you. I want to be in that group with my guys. I don't want to miss what's going to happen there. I don't want to miss what God's going to do. So the honesty and the meetings, 2 keys. The third key is maintaining your spiritual program. That relationship with Jesus Christ. Some of the guys that I've been talking to lately they've just exploded with growth because they've discovered a newfound depth in their relationship with Jesus. That spiritual program, that time in worship, that time reading his word to us, that time in prayer, that time in meditation, that quiet time, it's been transformative for them. And they're on a new growth. They're on a new growth track because of it. So having and developing that spiritual program, that's the third key. And then the fourth key is service. Service, which includes serving as a sponsor for those of you who have. If you've been through a step study, absolutely sponsor. And even some of you that are midway through the step study, you're further along than someone who just walks through the door. You could sponsor newcomers. As long as you've done a 4th step and at least have that experience, you can start someone down the path. So I encourage everyone, if you are not sponsoring, come see me. Let me know. Send an email to info@cvchurch.com. I'll get you the sponsoring training, and you can get started. Nobody's ever ready to sponsor. Nobody's ever ready. Nobody's ever unafraid. Oh, what if I mess this up? What if I say the wrong thing? We've all done that. I was not ready to sponsor. My sponsor wasn't ready to sponsor me. Get involved in service. Get involved in being a sponsor. If you're brand new, you can be an accountability partner. And we'll talk about the difference with those. So those are the 4 keys to any good recovery program. If you see someone that has recovery, those 4 keys are happening in their lives. So having a sponsor and accountability partner, it's biblical. It's a key part of our recovery program. And it is the best guard against relapse. It's the best guard against relapse. When I am struggling, if I pick up the phone and I call my accountability, I will not relapse. It's just that simple. I won't. Because the way it works is that when I am in a bad place, I am focused completely on myself. I cannot see past my own struggles, my own despair, my own fill in the blank. The moment I reach out and I can start to communicate with someone and I can receive the grace of Jesus Christ through someone and I can hear from their experience, strength, and hope, my own focus goes off of me and it goes onto someone else. And by the time that call is done, I've forgotten what it was that led to the call in the first place. It's just like it's gone. So some of you that are struggling, right, the 500-pound phone, just picking up that phone, it's hard. It took me, I went through many relapses before my sponsor just finally said, Scott, what are you afraid of? And we went through all the different reasons why that go through my head, why I wouldn't call, all the different excuses. And he just went one by one and just said, that's a lie. And we all have the different lies that we tell ourselves to prevent us from calling. So by providing that feedback, a sponsor, accountability partner, they can see through our hurts, habits, and hangups. They can see dysfunctions returning. They can see the character defects in places we can't see them. It's just the way it works, right? The Bible says, before I try to take the speck out from someone else's eye, I have to take the log out of my own. Right? That accountability process, it allows me to see when I have a sponsor that's speaking into my life, when I have an accountability partner speaking into my life, they can see things so clearly that I can't see, that I'm just blind to. They can confront me with the truth. They can do so demonstrating no guilt, no shame, grace and mercy of Christ. And honestly, over time, experiencing that grace and that mercy becomes more positively addictive than the thing that I'm addicted to. And that I start to want that sense of forgiveness and grace and mercy more than I want to act out. Now, that might not happen immediately, but if you continue on the journey, it will happen. If you keep working your program, it will happen. So what are the qualities of a sponsor? Proverbs 25 says this, though good advice lies deep within a counselor's heart, the wise man will draw it out. So when you're seeking a sponsor or an accountability partner, look for these qualities. And I'm just going to run through these quickly. What are some of the qualities you're looking for? Does their walk match their talk? Does their walk match their talk? Are they living the 12 steps? Do you see the steps on display in their life? Do you hear it in their shares? Does that person have a growing relationship with Jesus Christ? Does that person express a desire to help others on the road to recovery? Does that person have good boundaries? Because most of us, when we're starting, we don't have good boundaries. And we have either not appropriate expectations of our accountability, or we have unrealistic, we put too many expectations on them. Jesus is going to heal us. My accountability is going to be on the journey with me, is going to help point me to Jesus. But my sponsor is not going to fix me. That's a codependent trap. So does that person show compassion, care, hope, but not pity? If they're pitying me, I got to find somebody else. Right? I have to have someone that's going to be able to say the difficult things to me in love, with care, but that's not going to enable me in my hurts, habits, and hangups. Is that person a good listener? You can observe in the groups. You can see who are good listeners, whose story resonates with you. Is the person strong enough to confront my denial or my procrastination? Does the person offer suggestions when we're talking after the meeting? And does the person in their shares, do I hear them sharing their struggles? Some people won't share of their current struggles, and then I always have to be a little bit wary of that person. Because we all have current, it doesn't matter how long we've been in, there's something we're struggling with. Does that person share of those in an appropriate way in the group? If so, that could be a good sponsor. So those are the qualities of a sponsor. Okay, the next fill-in is, what's the role of a sponsor? What does a sponsor do? What does an accountability partner do? And we'll get to the very end, we'll talk about the difference between the two. I know I'm kind of lumping them together for now. What's the role of the sponsor? The person is there to discuss issues that are too personal or would take too much time in the meeting. Right? I get 5 minutes in my share, and the clock's ticking. Right? I might be able to touch on something, but I can't necessarily go into detail or depth. That would be the time I would go with a sponsor. Go with my accountability outside of the meeting. That person is available. Not always available, but during times of crisis or potential relapse, I can reach out to them. That person, my sponsor accountability, serves as a sounding board by presenting an objective point of view. I can say things like, here's what I'm feeling. Does this make sense to you? Here's the scenario. Does this make sense to you? Is the person there to encourage you to work the steps at your own speed, but does not try to work the steps for you? Right? Does that person give you assignments and then hold you accountable to those assignments? I have one sponsee that I've given them a particular assignment. I know it's a very difficult assignment. I'm showing them grace and mercy along the way, but I'm giving them suggestions. Hey, here's how you could overcome your procrastination. But I'm not going to back down on that assignment. I'm not going to just all of a sudden forget. And then last, does that person model the lifestyle of recovery? Do they model that for you? And that would be a good person to have as your sponsor and accountability partner. And then lastly, you can change them. There's been a couple of the men that have come through that have had changes in their accountability or their sponsoring, and it's been very difficult. Please don't take it personally. Okay? Your recovery is your recovery. It's yours. It's your responsibility. And if you're in an accountability relationship with someone and you're not growing, ask someone else. I've done that many times. I've both directions. I've had sponsees where they weren't growing, and I just said, we got to find someone else for you, because whatever that I'm doing, it's not helping you. And then we got them connected with someone else, and they just took off. It's not personal. So just know, if you're a sponsor, people will switch. It's okay. And if you're a sponsee, it's okay. If it's not working, try somebody else. And then, how do I find a sponsor and accountability partner? This is the next fill-in. How do I find someone? Now, first of all, the person must be the same sex as you. Men do not sponsor women. Women do not sponsor men. Your spouse is not your same sex. That should be obvious. But the reason is because I can talk to Tony in a certain way that his struggles are going to be things that I'm going to understand, and vice versa. My wife will come to me with things that there's just no way. I can nod my head and pretend that I have some clue, but I don't have a clue. But she can go to her accountability, and they can help each other. So the person's same sex. After you've narrowed the field down, listen to the people share. Go to your small groups. Listen to the people share. Do you resonate with what's being spoken? Invite the person to coffee. Hang out with them. Talk to them after the meeting. Get to know them. See if there's a good fit. If you ask the person and they say no, do not take it personally. They just might be full. Ask someone else. getting a sponsor and accountability, that is your responsibility. It's one of the most important things you do in your recovery. And it will be something that you will become proud of. Hey, I did this for myself. I took action. I developed this relationship. Because some of us not so good at developing relationships. You can also ask for a temporary sponsor and accountability partner. If the person says no, you say, hey, would you help me temporarily till I can find someone? And oftentimes they will. So ask God to lead you. Pray. He will provide. He always provides. Every time I needed a new sponsor, I did this, and God just showed me someone. I went to meetings, I listened, I asked, and God had someone for me. But I had to look. And then last, what's the difference between a sponsor and an accountability partner? So a sponsor is someone who coaches you. It's someone who's been through the steps. They're further along the journey than you are. There's someone that functions like a coach. An accountability partner is someone who functions like a teammate. They're right there with you. So you want to have both. The more accountability, the better. Develop 5 accountability partners and a sponsor. You can put them on a text chain, and then you just text back and forth. That works. A lot of people use technology that way, and it really works. So tonight, and we're going to go ahead and close with worship. So as the worship team comes up, think about those of you who do not have a sponsor, those of you who do not have an accountability partner. I highly, highly, highly encourage you. Start tonight. Take the things that we've talked about, go into the small groups, and start to listen. And those of you who have been here for a while and worked the steps and have at least done a step 4, avail yourselves of becoming a sponsor. It's the most rewarding thing you will do in your recovery. Thank you for letting me share.
Let praise be a weapon that silences the enemy. Let praise be a weapon that conquers all anxiety. Let it rise. Let praise arise. We sing your name in the dark and it changes everything. We sing with all we are and we claim your victory. Let it rise. Let praise arise. We'll see you break down every wall. We'll watch the giants fall. Oh, fear cannot survive when we praise you. The God of breakthroughs on our side, forever lift him high. With all creation cry, God, we praise you. Oh, we praise you. Let faith be the song that overcomes the raging sea. Let faith be the storm that calms the storm inside of me. Let it rise. Let faith arise. We'll see you break down every wall. We'll watch the giants fall. Oh, fear cannot survive when we praise you. The God of breakthroughs on our side, forever lift him high. With all creation cry, God, we praise you. Oh, we praise you. Oh, This is what living looks like. This is what freedom feels like. This is what heaven sounds like. We praise you, we praise you. This is what living looks like. This is what freedom feels like. This is what heaven sounds like. We praise you, we praise you. We'll see you break down every wall. We'll watch the giants fall. Oh, fear cannot survive when we praise you. The God of breakthroughs on our side, forever lifted high. With all creation cried out, we praise you. Oh, we praise you.
God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Living one day at a time, enjoying one moment at a time, accepting hardship as a pathway to peace. Taking, as Jesus did, this sinful world as it is, not as I would have it. Trusting that you will make all things right if I surrender to your will, so that I may be reasonably happy in this life and supremely happy with you forever in the next. Amen. We will now receive the offering for CR. If you have a prayer request, please email them to info@cvchurch.com, and they will be sent to the CR prayer team. Put CR prayer request in the subject line. If you'd like to give, you may give. You may go to cvchurch.com/give. If you want to give on a mobile phone, just text the word CV Church to 77977 to get set up. Or you can mail a check to Celebrate Recovery in the memo to CV Church, 4001 La Crescenta Avenue, La Crescenta, California, 91214. All of the money you give goes to CR, and you'll get an itemized receipt next January. Celebrate Recovery meets online and on-site and online every Friday at 7 p.m., so be sure to bookmark this link and subscribe to the CV Church YouTube channel. Newcomers, if you'd like to get more information about CR, text CV Church to 77411 or email info@cvchurch.com. We encourage you to participate in the on-site and online small groups that start now. Please note that when you join the online small group, you'll be put in the waiting room. You will see, please wait, the meeting host will let you in soon. Be patient while the Zoom host places you in your group. If you are a newcomer, the host will ask you which group you want to attend. Here's how to participate in the Zoom small groups. And this info is also available at cvchurch.com on the CR tab. Step one is go to zoom.com/join. Or you can download the Zoom app on mobile devices. Then enter the meeting ID, which is 840-432-6690. Again, that's 840-432-6690. I hear people out there who know it. Very good. Everybody, men and women, enter the same meeting ID. The host will put you in one of the following small groups you choose. Women's physical, emotional, and sexual abuse meets right here. Women's hurts and habits group across the parking lot. Men's codependency and anger group meets upstairs. And men's hurts and habits group meets upstairs as well. If your Wi-Fi or cell signal dies, or you leave accidentally or get disconnected from your group for any reason, rejoin and the host will reassign you. Then you must manually click Join Breakout Room. So the groups can start on time. Please join your on-site and online small groups now. Also, if you have friends who've never heard of Celebrate Recovery, share the YouTube and Zoom links for this meeting with them. Have a great small group, and see you next week at Celebrate Recovery.